For decades now, we have begun to experience a phenomenal event that affects the lives of each and every one of us. Although it may sound like an overstimulated argument or phrase, it is far from it, and many of us still fail to pay attention. How come is it the case that so many people have ignored the screams of life on Earth? Why do we always blame each other in such a matter, where we could easily work as a whole and conquer the issue much quicker? These are all a result of what is widely known as climate change. Now hold on a minute. My name is Lucas Winkleman. I'm the host of the Perspectives podcast on Science Appreciated. If you are new here, this is where we use the power of science to enrich ourselves in a journey through the cosmos. Today we are going to begin to embark upon a 3-part series on climate change. And we're not just talking about the causes of climate change, but we are talking about the human causes of climate change. Now, when we talk about the human causes of climate change, let's not think that we are trying to blame someone about it. We are just trying to learn from our mistakes and do better next time. But back to my point. Through scientific research from the climate pioneers of the past and the current investigators of today, the rise in global temperatures on our planet can be strongly considered to be the result of human activity involved in the burning of fossil fuels with the release of nitrogen oxide into the atmosphere, the farming of livestock, which emits the greenhouse gas methane, and the mass destruction of our natural forests, whose decaying leaves and plants causes the escape of carbon dioxide back into the atmosphere. Stay tuned for the upcoming episode. The results of climate change may only now be noticed, but the predictions have been around ever since the Industrial Revolution. The first announced report of a change in climate was published in April of 1896 by the scientist and Nobel Prize winner Svante Arrhenius. The explanations were titled "On the Influence of Carbonic Acid in the Air upon the Temperature of the Ground." In his document, he was the first to predict that if our species continued to direct their lives to fossil fuel combustion, it will eventually lead to a greenhouse effect, accelerating future global warming. As of today's definition, according to the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, or more commonly known as NASA, the greenhouse effect is the warming of climate that results when the atmosphere traps heat radiating from the Earth towards space. If we now fast forward to our present day, where we have the power of technology to accurately determine the state of our atmosphere and climate, there is clearly accurate proof of a change in our hospitable climate, just like that of which Svante Arrhenius predicted in his 1896 document. In NASA's Global Climate Change website, NASA satellites have tracked and recorded the ground and atmospheric changes over time. The data collected from the satellites is updated live to the public. As of 2023, readings have suggested that primary carbon dioxide levels have gone up 421 parts per million, the global temperature has rose 1.1 degrees Celsius since the pre-industrial era, ice sheets have melted 424 billion metric tons per year, and the Arctic Sea has risen by 4 inches since January of 1993. This data clearly displays the change in climate over time at a speed that was unimaginable until now. An article published by the United States Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, analyzed sources of nitrogen from human activities such as electric power generation, industry, transportation, and agriculture can upset the natural balance of nitrogen in the environment. The article also explained that when fossil fuels are burnt, they release nitrogen oxides into the atmosphere, which contribute to the formation of smog and acid rain. Nitrogen oxide accounts for greenhouse gas emissions. However, fossil fuels also release large amounts of carbon dioxide, another greenhouse gas, which also has a powerful effect in our atmosphere. Fossil fuels are used to generate energy. if a house's electricity comes from a local power plant, there remains to be a strong likelihood that it is from a fossil fuel power plant. According to the Center of Sustainable Systems at the University of Michigan, in the United States, about 79% of the nation's energy comes from fossil fuels, 8.4% from nuclear, and 12.5% from renewable sources. You may have no idea where your house's energy comes from, but as of 2023, as long as your house is powered by the energy from a power plant, the probability of its energy from fossil fuels remains high. Every time a heater, an air conditioner, or dishwasher, or any type of electrical equipment is used, fossil fuels are likely being burnt elsewhere. Gasoline production also accounts for fossil fuel emissions. As a result, many people encourage the idea of converting to electric cars instead of gasoline-powered cars. It's a fine idea when that energy comes from a clean source. However, by using the example that was reported by the University of Michigan, 79% of just the United States' energy comes from fossil fuels. Therefore, the energy that powers electric cars may well still originate from the burning of prehistoric fossils. The only methods of totally escaping the burning of fossil fuel is by converting to a more cleaner source of energy, such as solar power, wind, or nuclear energy. All three of these are considered clean sources of energy, yet they still have their disadvantages. For example, solar power is an excellent source of energy for powering buildings. But if there are too many overcast days where the clouds block the sun, its source of energy, then it will reduce the amount of necessary electricity needed to power a structure. On the other hand, wind energy also works as a clean source of energy, but the turbines that power that wind energy can require up to 60 gallons of oil lubricant that will need to be upgraded every once in a while. The oil needed to maintain wind turbines is a fossil fuel on its own. Finally, we are left with nuclear energy. According to the Department of Energy, nuclear is a zero-emission clean energy source. However, so many people are way too afraid to use it, following the tragic mistakes that have been made during its production. So, if we want to avoid the burning of fossil fuels, there is one main aspect that must be done. We must all convert away from the direct burning of fossil fuels and become as green as possible. Consequently, the burning of fossil fuels for the convenience of use by humans and their release of nitrogen oxide and carbon dioxide are only one aspect of global climate change. More human causes, releases of elements that promote climate change, still exist. We'll cover some of those other causes in the next video, so be sure to subscribe and be notified when that next video comes out so you can stay in touch with climate change and do your own part on saving the climate. Until next time, thanks for visiting Science Appreciated. I appreciate you being here.